so you go to a conference and let's be real. You got to make sure that you're not making an ass out of yourself because this is the future of your career. Also, there's things that we know happen there that can lead to unsafe situations. So today on the Daily BA, we are talking just about that.
Okay. All right, so on a more serious note, when it comes to conferences, there are some things to watch out for. The first is that you're in a professional situation. Your potential future employers, all of your professors, probably active still, are going to be around. And it's such a small field.
Yep.
Everybody talks immediately. It's kind of like in those small towns. Like my mom, growing up in a small town, knew what I was going to do before I even did it. It felt like.
Yep.
So this is a continuation of the How to Conference series that I worked on while I was at Florida's Association for Behavior Analysis 2018 annual conference. A quick disclaimer, this is not endorsed by FABA, nor is anything that I'm saying or referencing from anybody at FABA. This is a general summary and video and my perspective after 100 or so of these events over the last 8 or 9 years.
It seems easy to say, but like you got to really make sure that you're always thinking about your image and what you're doing and how that would be reflected from the other side, especially in today's technology of just anyone can capture anything at any moment.
How many people were videotaping at the dance?
There was a lot last night.
What's the DJ name?
DJ Ill Behavior.
So the only thing I have from the dance floor is a little bit that should be more blurry just because Tim was DJing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to be really cautious and careful of that. And I don't think that means like hide your personality and those sort of things at all. You're not supposed to be limiting your individuality and who you are. You should just be really aware of who's around and what's going on around you.
And I would say if you're the type of person who is like really outgoing and kind of has a more like exciting personal life, that's cool. At the conference, either trim it back a bit when you're around other professionals or find some cool clubs and like bars to go to that are outside of the conference, because again, that's that whole like dual relationship, mixing personal and professional, and you never know when you're gonna go in for an interview and be like, oh
yeah,
that's the person I started saying, whatever to, or doing whatever with,
or whatever, yeah.
So the one tip and strategy that I have for you that I think is really valuable and I would suggest doing is a buddy system.
So I think another angle of this topic is making sure that you're always safe and feeling comfortable. I've started operating more and more on the buddy rule, like always having somebody with you around that's close, that might be within an arm's reach, a text, a look across the bar, just so that if you need to talk about something or if something inappropriate is going on, you immediately have someone there with an extra set of eyes, but also to help you understand the situation, make sure you've got another interpretation of it, right? And that could be, the quick ride up the elevator or hanging out at the bar. Anything else on this topic?
Yeah, well,
being
from
safe?
A woman's perspective.
Yeah.
Especially, it doesn't, well, it still happens, but when you go to any conference like this, there's a lot of really young, pretty women in the hotel bar in close proximity to a lot of older men. And when drinking's involved or not, for whatever reason, there tends to be more of a, like, I don't know why it's such a high probability thing. It's your typical bar setting, I guess. Like, even outside of a conference or wherever, if you have pretty women and men with money, tends to be a little bit of a situation of, like, buying drinks and things like that. And that, just, being two things with that. One, being willing to, like, stand up for yourself. But if you see someone where a man or a woman is, acting inappropriately towards a younger person, don't be afraid to step in and just be like, hey, how's it going? And kind of like disrupt that conversation. And you can usually get a feel for if things were what you were reading them to be or not. The other piece of that, though, would also be if you were a younger person in the field, try not to fall into like celebrity status mode, because it can be really easy to get sucked in and think that like you're special or something.
Yeah.
And that's not like, I'm not trying to be like blame the victim or anything like that, but it definitely doesn't. I definitely have friends who did things they regretted because of that.
That kind of starstruck.
And nobody ever really like trained them or coached them or like told them that was a thing that would happen. And that's the biggest thing they wish would have happened. Like that somebody would have warned them, like, hey, when you go to the hotel bar, there are probably going to be men in the field, or women, but for us as a woman, it's men, who are published, and you're like really respect them, and they may hit on you, and it might make you feel special, but that's like what happens.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it doesn't mean that they're genuinely interested in you. So just that's my biggest thing, is like be careful about that, and like, not feeding into that if you can.
Yeah. Always have somebody with you, regardless of the situation, where you're at, what conference. Buddy systems are great. Make sure that you have somebody that you trust, can give you a second judgment or opinion on something that may happen to you, or that you may have done to somebody else, or as kind of a third-party observer of what it is that you've got going on, what you're doing, and whatnot. It's just nice to constantly be thinking about that in the moment.
In the last year of conferencing and traveling, I think I've ran into that myself.
Yeah.
That you're describing. You've been around to help out, kind of like slide in there.
Another piece of advice, I guess, like when I first started going to conferences as a grad student, there were definitely moments when like someone would stand too close or like put their arm around me, put their arm around my back. I even have a picture on Facebook that I didn't even realize until after, like years after, of someone very prominent in the field with his hand on my ass.
Yeah.
And you don't, like, in the moment, like, when that person took that picture with me, I felt uncomfortable, but I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't even move away because it was awkward.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a lot better as I've gotten older. If somebody's getting too close or like putting their arm around me or like about to touch me, it seems friendly and nice and like whatever at the time, but you don't ever know anyone's intentions. So I've gotten a lot better at just being like, nope, like take that arm off, like move over to the other side, get closer to a friend of mine, and don't feel like it's like they should be the ones that feel uncomfortable and awkward, not you. It's your body.
Yeah. One thing you made me think of there, I've been trying to be a little bit more mindful of, for example, when we go down to Miami, the culture is very different. For me, I'm not used to, I've had some good friends, significant others there that like, you're like, hey, how you doing? And it's like the quick text on the cheeks. And I'm like, whoa, it's really different for me. So just reflecting, like I try to be a little bit more open to like what's the culture of where I'm going.
Right, of course.
But I'm also, what's cool is they also do that for me too. So I feel like it's this time where people are watching more. The goal here is like be aware of what's going on, taking pictures with whomever. I try to be more mindful of if I'm going to like, let's all like, I actually have been asking more.
Right.
So like, hey, are we doing this or are we just like standing?
Yeah.
And if you picture it as a we and what are we doing, it's been a very, at least for me, this conference has been a very smooth way to everybody to figure out what they're doing, you know, for the picture or whatnot. So I appreciate the perspective, appreciate that we can get this on here. But I like that you mentioned it can go any way, really.
Right. Yep. I mean, especially like probability wise right now, there's like thousands of women and not that many men. So I usually see it more from like the men hitting on the women kind of thing.
Yeah, and we've seen other examples out there too.
Yeah.
I've been a part of them. So cool. I think we did justice there, right?
Yeah.
So stardom's weird, right? Like
on the stardom, it's also weird. We're like everybody's a human, and we're all here for the same reasons. Let's just save the world. Let's make the world better, right?
Yeah. We're all humans. We're all passionate about the same thing. Let's just cut to the chase and say, what can we do to work together and make this world a better place? That's kind of my take.
Well, so that made me think of one more point.
Okay.
With the stardom, we are all humans, and that means we shouldn't excuse people's behavior.
For sure.
Because of that. So I've definitely seen that happen too, where it's like, oh, but that's so-and-so, and they've done so many great things for our field. What's the big deal? Kind of thing. Or like, they deserve to let loose a little bit. And it's like, no, you're still just a human. You don't get a pass just because you've published 100 studies or something like that.
Yeah, or whatever it is that you're doing for the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Agree.
So that's kind of the hodgepodge of what we put together on this episode. I'm really interested in what your thoughts are down below, tips for staying safe, general culture of these sort of things. I like the idea of being honest and truthful about how these events are. They can be completely nuts and insane. They can be the complete opposite of that. Depends on the event, depends on what you're interested in attending and going to and who you're hanging out with. So
one thing you always have to be super cautious of is you're creating your personal brand. And you want your personal brand, if you're fun and dynamic, and that's cool, there's going to be lots of opportunities to get out and hang out with people, and you just want to really always be thinking about, is this going to be in the best interest of my brand? If I'm acting a certain way, how's that going to be perceived? And it can be hard to undo some of that stuff. So I would just really encourage you to always be thinking about your brand, and you can have fun and have a good time and really hang out and connect with people and outside of maybe a more formal conference opportunity, but just protect your brand.
So some conferences just won't even acknowledge this, to the point that they ask to make sure that no photos or videos or anything are shared of people with drinks in their hand. But the drinking culture at these events are crazy. They are an honest, serious concern for the mental health and just the state of our field in some ways. That said, I will say that I don't think this is the only field that just goes ham all of a sudden when they go out to these events. There are models and outliers of healthy, balanced lifestyles. I'm a big fan of folks like Nick Green, Behavior Fit, and others that are working to try to bring people together to work on these sort of behaviors while they're there, as opposed to these other ones. But part of our culture just sucks us into those sort of things. I've been focusing more in the last year how to avoid, the drinking, partying, fun side of it. Still enjoy those social events, but focus on my health, my sleep, and whatnot while I'm there. So I think the biggest thing to talk about here is self-care. I don't know of any behavior analytic research on self-care. I know Shane Spiker's been working on a dissertation about that. If you have any links, please share them down below. There is stuff outside of the field I can link up here as well, another video that I've done with him talking about this. But I think what I'm most interested in is your perspectives on self-care and in this ABA conference culture. Let me know down below. I think as we have continued scrutiny from others outside the field, and as this continues, these sort of things may be highlighted. So now is the time to handle them so we can move forward and focus on what is best for our field. All right. If you're into this, and only if you're into this, please like, share, subscribe. It makes a huge difference. You're going to do that by clicking here for the subscribe. Down here is a video that YouTube's like, yeah, this is probably the most interesting thing for you. Or you can hop in over here, and this is the most recent upload that I've also put out on this channel. So thank you for your support. I appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. That is your Daily BA.